yeah, maybe if you want to take the mic, Doreen.
Sure. Raj and Jade, it's really nice to talk with you today. I don't know Raj. Jade, I've exchanged emails with you and look forward to meeting you in Taiwan at some point. So the Young Bodhisattva program has a bit of a history. It first began in Myanmar and Thailand, and I wasn't part of that early history. But then it got revived in Taiwan in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So we were only really able to do one in-person gathering in Taiwan, and then we had an online gathering in 2020, and I guess this year and next, we're still pending, depending on what happens with the pandemic. But Digital Bodhisattva grew out of Vidya wanting to come to talk to the kind of Young Bodhisattva program about how we're using media these days. So it was really, I think, focused on digital media and our practices. And I think out of that, we began these conversations about how there's a lot of active usage and consumption of digital media. But one of the things that we talk a lot about in Buddhism, this piece of awareness seemed to be missing from our usage and consumption of media. And even like the I don't know, I feel like there's this like idea that young people are really digitally savvy, but the young people in our network, while they were really good at using all the tools, weren't necessarily questioning what happens when we use the tools and we give all our data away, and what's happening to our data after we give it away. So there were lots of questions that we thought would be really good to explore together. And then it seemed that there was a lot that as people studying and practicing Buddhism that we could bring to, I would argue, the digital technology landscape, particularly around awareness and insight. So I felt like there was a lot of space to bring to bring Buddhism together with digital technology. So Vidya and I kind of began these conversations. We wanted to bring the conversations beyond us. So this past year, we started a pilot focus group called Digital Bodhisattva. And we began meeting, so Dexter was a part of that. We opened it up to all youth in the INEB network. So it grew beyond Digital Bodhisattva. And we started just meeting once a month and kind of like reading some things together. We watched a documentary together and began figuring out, if people were interested in this topic. I really feel like it's the very beginning of seeing if people are interested, what they want to talk about. I feel like a lot of us have concerns, but where do we go from those concerns? So that for me is kind of how we began. And Vidya, if you would like to add anything, please feel very welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Doreen. I think you kind of articulated the whole history and how we come about. My interest is very much aligned to our practice, because in one of the core practice is to see things as they really are, to understand the nature of things and what happens around us, and not to be so influenced, and that our mind, lose our mindfulness by a lot of things that are around us. And one of the biggest influence in our thinking and our mind today is the information and the news and that is pushed to us through the digital medium. So I think we need to make sense of that and understand deeper this whole world, the kind of digital world we live in today, and find mindfulness or find peace with this environment. and how do we find ourselves and not be dragged away by the needs of the social media companies, the data that's mined from us, and so on. I think it's also about building awareness, of things around us, particularly in this case, the digital environment and digital media. So that's on one level, that's what I hope to encourage conversations like this. And the other thing is, how do we, be empowered to adopt and adapt this medium, this digital environment for our own practice. Is it even possible? I think that's the title of this discussion. Is it even possible? And how do we use it to extend, greater good, to bring, in the spirit of the Buddhist teaching, for the benefit of the many, for the happiness of the many. How do we do that? So yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I'm for encouraging more and more conversations, more and more discussions, more and more views to help us understand, the place that we are in today. So yeah, that's it from me. Dexter kind of was born from this whole conversations and this discussion. I'm sure Dexter would have your views and inputs about this.
Yeah, thanks. I was born from this conversation, and I think it couldn't have come at a better time, because I joined this digital Bodhisattva focus group in the last year of university, in the past, I guess, 8 months ago, and I was spending a lot of time online. I was studying basically the entire year was a digital year of education, which had actually been piled on top of, I had done a semester earlier when I was studying abroad. I had to do that online as well because of COVID. So my immersion in this digital world has really been amplified in the past year and a half, both for quote pleasure in terms of my own discursive entertainment, but also in terms of actual schoolwork and learning through a fully digital medium as opposed to kind of more traditionally. And that's why I think engaging in conversations about how the mind actually relates to the digital space, and how really for me, I'm a little bit concerned actually, because what I see a lot, for instance, on the trains in Tokyo, or really anywhere, but Tokyo I think especially, you enter a train and everyone they look like zombies. They're what I call doom scrolling their lives away. It's just there's no there's no expression behind their face. It doesn't look like it. It just seems like there's a sort of system in place that has kind of wormed its way into our minds, and that's the attention economy of digital media, especially social media, that kind of profits off of our engagement, that I feel, and I think I actually experience, is very unmindful. And the reason why I think this is important is because I think that there are a lot of, if not nefarious, if not outrightly nefarious things going on in terms of the power dynamics that this issue creates. I think it's in terms of our own practice, in terms of our own ability to
Did we lose Dexter?
I think so. Somewhere lost in space, lost in digital space.
It's that Wi-Fi at INEB. It's really weak Wi-Fi.
Is it not? It's not strong.
Well, strong enough to bring you back. Welcome back, Dexter. Keep on going.
Oh, sorry. Maybe it's a sign that I need to pass the mic. But I mean, I guess my point was that in my experience, social media is not something that is conducive to mindful practice. And I want to be able to develop new methods to be able to engage more consciously with it myself, but then also be able to help others see that doom scrolling isn't the only way to engage in the digital space. There's a lot of positivity that I think can be generated through it if we're able to use these technologies with, I think, greater skillful means. Yeah, so I'll leave it there and see what anyone else has to say. Also, if Joe or Raj or Jade, if you have anything that you'd like to say, you can always put your hand up and we can pass you the mic.
I want to share a story. And if we notice any hands up, I can quickly end my story too. I don't know how this is related to Buddhism at all, but I've been thinking, I've made some conscious choices about my media usage recently. And I had an experience last month that made me feel like I was traveling for the first time in this COVID era. I haven't left Taiwan in a year and 9 months. So, okay, so my story is, I'm going to back up and say that because of putting Digital Bodhisattva on Clubhouse, this video is a really good idea. I've been getting a crash course in Malaysian media and Malaysian politics, and it's been really fun for me. So the first time we had a Clubhouse event for Digital Bodhisattva it was with Pramesh Chandra, who started one of the first independent online media platforms in Southeast Asia, and just really interesting, sweet guy. And then shortly after that, I became a subscriber to a Southeast Asia kind of independent media platform called New Narrative. Okay, so backing up even more, the reason why I decided to do that was because my mom and I made a podcast this year. And when the podcast went online, I was going crazy. I was becoming even more addicted to social media than I had been. And my mom was super addicted. And my mom was sending me messages every day about how many people had watched our trailer. And it was so much for me that I decided to delete the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter apps from my phone. So first I made some no decisions. And I was like, okay, I'm saying no to this. I'm trying to give myself some no's by doing some deleting of apps from my phone. And then I put a leech block extension on my laptop. But then I was like, I don't just want to say no. I also want to say yes and consciously, welcome some things into my life. And I had been thinking for a while about why was I okay paying a subscription to Netflix and Spotify, but I wasn't paying a subscription to news. And independent journalists are some of my heroes in this world. So then I became a subscriber to New Narrative, and they're really fun because they do comics and they do a lot of graphics and they just do a lot of investigative reporting from all over Southeast Asia. Okay, the end of my story is, so then they sent out a message to their subscribers that they were holding free classes for members. And they were doing an online class called, on freedom of speech. So I decided to sign up, and it turned out the entire group of 15, 20 people were all Malaysians. And I was the only Taiwan person. And it felt like I was being plopped into a Malaysian living room and talking about things that really mattered with a bunch of Malaysians that I have never met in my life. And then when we went into a breakout room, I got assigned to this room with two high school students, with these two high school guys. And there we were talking about freedom of speech and sexual assault and sex education in Malaysia. And it was so interesting. I would never, I don't think I would ever have the chance to talk to, I don't know, these high school dudes about these issues if I hadn't done this class. Yeah, so I want to talk about something that I've really been enjoying in this conversation, because I feel like a lot of times my attention goes to what I'm concerned about instead of what I'm happy about. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That is such a good point, and I actually really appreciate the positivity and optimism there, because at least for me, I know it's easy to get sucked into the a little bit of the negativity and seeing the detrimental aspects of like too much absorption, like addictions. But I completely agree with you. There's like a tremendous upside to being connected and to being connected skillfully, like, because that's what it sounds like you did. You took like the time to really mindfully consider, no, I don't want to just cut myself off. I want to engage in the things that I choose and what I find real meaning in, and then see what happens from there. And I think that's an incredibly important point. It isn't about just negations. It's about choosing and choosing based on, I think, what you really feel connected to, as opposed to what the algorithm wants you to see, and then you become habituated to whatever it is that just pops up on the feed, as opposed to really kind of curating your feed and taking kind of maybe even more pride in the like information diet that you consume, because I guess like what you are what you eat, and I think you definitely see the world through the lens of the information that you absorb. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Thanks for sharing that story, Doreen.
Doreen, thanks for that story. I think it's a very good experience, and it got me to reflect a lot of things as well. I jumped into social media about 7 years ago. I was marooned on an island working, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And, and then at the time, everyone was looking at social media and say, wow, this is interesting, we can share what you're doing. And for a while, I was addicted to it. So yeah, every night I would, and every time in between, I'll be scrolling and, going through this, because we were all alone working, families back in a few thousand miles away. And, for a while, I kind of got pulled into it. And I realized that I have a lot of friends who are on different platforms. So one of the big problems I had was, get onto this platform, I'm here. Get onto the platform, I'm there. And, before you know it, you have 5 different applications running on your phone, and you'll be flipping back and forth, different applications, just trying to catch up what people are doing and what you want to say. So being mindful about stopping and say, I better stop this. It's a very important point, right? And the other thing I realized that during the time I was, kind of doom scrolling in between work and, sometimes during work, at that time, was I find the conversations were almost non-existent. And what happened was that the nature of social media is to keep everything very short, very simple, very, not even precise, but just, one line and, one line comment in a picture. And every comment or discussions is non-discussion. It's one line. So that became a problem for me, because I found that, I like to sit down, I like to talk a lot, I like to listen, and joining the conversation. I find that missing. And when that became missing, I felt something gone from my life. This social media, this whole digital media, social media, engagement became very fleeting, very it lacked the depth that I was so used to. I was so used to sitting at a dinner table, at a meal table, having a conversation, exchanging ideas, and I find that missing. So, and today, one of the challenge I have is when the trend today is continue to make it short, make it simple, engage, move on, engage, move on, and I think that's quite damaging. So back to what you have said, Doreen, I think the ability to make choices and to choose to say, well, okay, I'm not going to do this today. I'm not going to do this at all. I want to have good engagement. I want to have more in-depth conversations somehow. And we begin to choose our platforms where we can share information, where we can solicit ideas, feedback, and continue to generate more thinking, more information, more knowledge, as it were. So that's where I'm at right now, and I think we need to be mindful enough to have this balance to say, yeah, I will just share a little bit, but I want to get into these deeper conversations, right? And that's missing. So I think if we can refocus ourselves into this kind of conversations, generate our thinking, tickle more ideas, and help understand ourselves and the world around us in this whole digital space. I think that's a starting point, and that's why I like platforms like this now, where I'm not limited by the 150 characters. I can share, and if you don't agree, we can have an argument, right? So I think this is starting to become interesting. But again, where is this taking us? We have to be careful as well. It is a social media. It is a digital media that doesn't belong to us. It belongs to some company somewhere that has a valuation of X million or billion dollars that will have a different intention from what we want. So we need to know how to make use of this kind of platforms for ourselves. And this, I say, mindfulness and understanding, have a deep understanding of the platforms that we use is very, very critical. So yeah, I just want to share this with you. And I think if you have any more thoughts or ideas, your own experience, I think it's a good time to share. If anyone want to come up and on the stage and share your own experience, please come up and do so. Thank you. Yeah.
Vidya, when you said that you were marooned on an island, I don't know if people actually know you were literally on an island in the middle of the Pacific.
Okay. Yes, I was in an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, not in the Pacific. I was literally in an island working for some organizations and in a very intense project. Yeah. So yeah, I was literally in marooned on this island. So if you follow some of my other social media, I like taking pictures. So if you click on some of my social media, you see pictures, so you know which island I'm talking about. Yeah.
I also wanted to add a question for the floor, and I see Jade came up too. Just a question of, what choices are you making around digital media and why? Just for everybody. Okay.
So my signal is actually really bad right now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
It's very good.
Okay. That's good. So what I was going to say, I've come from a background, just having studied psychology, and one thing that comes up time and time again is the, massively detrimental effects that overuse of social media can have. Not only on your motivation, but on, burnout and the amount of time that you feel rested, actually rested after, let's say, when you go home to, 3 hours. I had that kind of background of being fairly skeptic of like overuse of social media. And I'd say in the past I've always had a distance relationship with it, but fairly recently, maybe 3 months ago, to come the social media site, most of them went online, for example, and that came from a place of like I could almost was escaping me. The longer I spent on these networks, inspiring me to get social media again, to try a more mindful approach to my use of it. But I was curious, like in terms of the biggest social media apps like Facebook and Instagram, how do you guys think?
Okay, I hear you now. So we kind of lost like 10 seconds of your last part of the conversation. If you want to repeat it.
What role do you guys digital Bodhisattva will have, which is kind of niche, and the entire point of Clubhouse, and engage in really interesting discussions. But I'm wondering, how do you sort of do that on Facebook? Like scroll, mindless engagement almost, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Good question. I don't know. I don't know how interested I am at this point in doing all that much stuff on Facebook. I think that what I'm finding really meaningful about Digital Bodhisattva is the community building aspect, this organic sharing of ideas without too much of the filters that come with, like Video is talking about, like a character limit or just kind of inert comment sections. I mean, of course, I think there are live functions on Facebook, which can be interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that part of like connecting the threads from the previous parts of the conversation is that we need to be skillful about what platforms we try to engage on and what platforms we try to build an audience on, or want to even build an audience on, because I think that there's a lot of upside to remaining in a kind of niche space that will attract a certain type of person who's interested in exploring these kinds of ideas in this medium. Of course, when it comes to the like approach and the ultimate vision of how impactful something like Digital Bodhisattva is, that it'll be an evolving thing. But I don't know. I think for now that I'm happy to use Facebook less. I don't get too much personal value out of using Facebook's platform, apart from really their messaging services. And I'm also very skeptical and a little bit afraid, I could even say, of the almighty Zuck and his and what he's doing with all of our data. That same worry applies to every platform, but I don't know. I guess my initial thought to your question is that perhaps we don't need to engage in Facebook and Instagram at this time. And I think that actually a really beautiful thing that can come out of these conversations is ideas about how that could be effective, or maybe even brainstorming like, what is it about those platforms that really creates the shallow engagements? And I mean, my initial answer is they're designed that way to give you a little hit of dopamine so that you keep going back for more, and you don't get too much. It's just like kind of like wetting your palate. You don't actually get like a kind of real nourishment out of it. It isn't a long form conversation or anything like that. Like when Vidya was talking about having this depth to interactions that are happening online, I've found personally, like my own story is I'm an enormous fan of podcasts. I've listened to thousands of podcasts, and I find them really juicy because it's like having, in a certain sense, it's like being schizophrenic, I think, because you have two disembodied voices or more than that in your head. But on a different level, it's kind of like someone can say something, they can make a point, and then there's a dialogue around it. So if you didn't understand what they meant in the first place, they keep talking about it for 20 minutes, and like you get other perspectives on the same thing, and there's this interlocutor vibe, which is like quite philosophical, and I enjoy that, even if the conversation isn't philosophical. It's this collaborative, like sense-making experience, which if someone wrote a long Facebook post, that piece of writing just is what it is. And of course they can go back and comment, oh, I didn't mean this, or all this, but it's less dynamic. And that's what I really enjoy about actually this platform of Clubhouse. So I guess that's a long-winded way of me saying that I think that for all intents and purposes, Clubhouse is like a really great platform for this type of initiative to be piloting and getting its footing on. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, it does seem to be a more, let's say, intelligent or engaging way to use social media is when there is a sort of dynamic of some people are speaking, others are listening, not necessarily everyone's engaging at the same time in like very small, let's say very separate or fragmented conversations or like tidbits of experiences. But when there is like this, like Clubhouse or in podcasting, when there is like a greater topic to discuss, and you have like a sort of circle of people kind of patiently like listening on and then chipping in at certain points. And yeah, it's a completely different dynamic to Facebook and Instagram, which are, run by massive, companies who are profiteering massively on the clicks of others. So it's nice to see that the popularity of that former kind of social media is like actually becoming like super accessible nowadays.
Yeah, I think in terms of it's a certain type of person. Like I mentioned, I just briefly mentioned that there's like some people will be much more interested in engaging in this type of information exchange than others, and that's fine. I think that we need to think about not necessarily needing to preach to the choir, or I'm not entirely sure where I was going with that metaphor there, but I think that the point is that some people are just really deeply engaged in one mode of their information processing, and like this isn't about creating a major sea change in the way that people use digital media. I mean, of course that's like a vision, but in reality, it's just about like being able to cultivate better practices for ourselves, so that we feel able to have conversations with others, to meet them on their own level, and then be able to explain where we're coming from and relate in very authentic ways. This isn't like a kind of evangelical mission or anything. It's a process, and it's a practice, really. That's why I think that every time like I'll set up a meeting or something on Clubhouse, and then I'll find myself like 2 minutes later just kind of scrolling through Instagram, I'm just kind of like, whoa, that was so quick how that happened. And I think that this is one of the things that I'm enjoying as a process is waking up to the little moments where I have like this kind of a little bit of dead space. Maybe I just finished a deep, like if I was writing something or if I was reading for a while, and I can tell my mind is kind of like wants a break somehow. It's interesting to observe like where the thumb goes across the screen, and like having like little moments of like pause right before I open like the Instagram application button is like it's those little moments where I kind of have like a small moment of like reflection on like what actually motivated me to do this action that I've just like kind of noticed I'm about to do. And I realized that it's like habituated patterns. And that's that is what it is. It isn't necessarily bad, but it could be bad if or at least I feel that it isn't as it doesn't necessarily make me feel all that centered or grounded when I kind of impulsively reach for a little information tidbit. I'd rather kind of do it like, I'm really interested in seeing what the people that I've followed today are up to, as opposed to it being like I've got a couple minutes free, I might as well jump on here. It's like it's not clear cut, and ultimately it's just like it's a process of kind of waking up slowly to the inner workings of like, I guess, your brain seeking, like grasping for information. So, yeah.
I would like to ask Vidya the question that's our main question today. Do you think mindful social media is a myth? And what are, maybe a separate but related question is, what are some practices that you bring from Buddhism to your use of media these days?
Thanks, Doreen. Okay, first of all, let's look at social media or the digital lifestyle as life itself, right? In take away social media, everyday life, what are your challenges of finding centeredness and finding moments of mindfulness? You are distracted. Sometimes you are distracted. You don't have time. There's a television show happening. There's a conversation somewhere, and that kind of prevent you from finding time for yourself or mindfulness, right? So if you make the effort, you can find time. Okay, like this is my meditation time. This is my practice period. I need to practice mindfulness, and then you layer one more layer of experience around you, and that's the social, digital social media experience around you, and that makes it a little bit more complicated and difficult because you are now exposed to more things, more information, more data, and I found out this term. I didn't know it until the younger people talk to me and say, hey, do you know this term called FOMO, FOMO, right? Okay, and I don't know what it is, right? And they explained to me, well, we have this thing called the fear of missing out. If you don't scroll, you don't talk to your friends, you don't connect with the social media, you fear that you miss out on things, right? And that's the problem today. So these are the hindrances that comes, the challenges that blocks you from jumping into a session or into a moment or time where you want to be mindful, you want to look inwards and focus on yourself. So So to answer that questions, it is not a myth. It is just more difficult, and we need different techniques now to break away so that you have time to reflect on yourself. And some people, have start to have meditation sessions on Clubhouse, for example. Right now there's one going on somewhere else, and it says tune into Clubhouse and don't say anything. And there's music or someone narrating a meditation session, guided meditation, and allows you to come out, into a meditation. But I think the real challenge is how do you build your own effort. In Buddhism, there's practice called virya, energy or effort, to say, yes, it is time for me to look inwards. It is time for me to take a step back. I am now experiencing anxiety. I have challenges right now. I am upset. I need to switch off. I need to be focused and centered. So can we do that? Yes, we can. Is it easier with the social media? I would say it's more challenging for certain people who are very engaged and engrossed in this media. So we need different approaches. I think Buddhist teachers, Dharma teachers, needs to now embrace this and understand the impact of this on the people who are using this, and able to insert themselves to help and address this whole, mindfulness in themselves, and to build character, to build strength in spiritual practice. So I think it's more challenging right now. And I know of people who are trying to do this, and we need to support them and help understand this whole digital space around us. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it's not a myth. It is possible to practice in the social media, but we need to look at it beyond the social media. We have to look at ourselves. We have to look at social media as something else that would distract us, that are distracting us, that's making us uneasy, uncomfortable, and we need to find ways to come back to center ourselves. Yeah. So what are these methods? What are these strategies? I think we need more conversations. We need to talk to people who are trying to do this, who understand this, and also maybe talk to people in the digital space to come together and say, look, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, right? So I think it's possible. It's not a myth. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I loved your answer, Vidya. It was it actually really you were actually really direct about it, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Dexter. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna give just like a little thing that I was reading Chogyam Trungpa, quite a well-known Tibetan teacher, and he was talking. I mean, this is something that comes up in a lot of different traditions, or especially meditation traditions. Is that there's this, like, at least as you begin to kind of have a formal seated practice, that, at least I'll speak from my own experience, that practice becomes, I am meditating when I'm in this practice, when I'm sitting in this posture, and following the specific technique, and these types of sensations are coming up. And this is what meditation is. And when I'm not in this posture, when I'm these specific, mostly positive things, then I'm not meditating. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And so there's this idea of, like, continuous practice, or there not really being a distinction between the formal seated shamatha, vipassana, whatever it is that you're doing, and you walking down the street, or you taking a shower or cooking or using social media for that matter. And I think like it becomes much more demanding in terms of your awareness, but I think it's an evolution of the practice is to recognize that every element of your day can be or really is an expression, because you're aware that you can bring more kind of clarity and precision to the things that you're engaged in. And so I also don't think that it's a myth that you can engage mindfully with social media. I do just think I completely agree with what Vidya said. It's very difficult, and it even seems to me that, you know, if when I'm sitting, I notice my thoughts going by as a stream, almost like a news feed of thoughts just going on internally, and that's without any external stimulation. That's all internal. You could call it karmic seeds bubbling up. But like, I then see how an actual newsfeed on my phone is almost a literalized version of that internal stream of thought happening all the time. And so thinking about it that way, you could utilize social media as a tool in practice. But I think it is definitely challenging.
You know, Dexter, sorry, Doreen, you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Thanks. I like what Dexter said, the answer, the comment, the statement that you make. And it's an important reminder that, you know, the practice of mindfulness is not a silo part of your life. You know, it's 3 a.m. to 3:45 a.m. I close my eyes, you know. But really, it's the whole of awake time, you know. How fast do you track your thoughts? You know, that you are getting into an anxiety, reading too many things, you know, and you feel you're not centered, you're not focused, you're getting angry, getting agitated, you know. I think this is the important part. It demands much more to pick this up, and that is why I think the spaces in the social media life that we have, you know, to really either shut off or to switch on the social media and go into a meditation practice by someone, it's important. It's like, you know, you're going on a run. You want to run the half marathon, and you can't do it in one day. You run out of stamina, you are distracted, you know, you need water and so on. But if you keep doing it, you keep practicing, then it becomes, you know, it becomes you. It's there, right? So I think we need to learn how to use social media creatively and skillfully to share this the need for mindfulness out to the people, right? Yeah, sorry, just jump in there, you know. Doreen.
Oh, no worries. I feel like this is how Clubhouse kind of works. We just jump. I love the point about continuous practice. My first teacher, I remember, said, there's a whole group of us, she said, there's never an excuse not to be, there's never an excuse of, I don't have time, because you could touch a doorknob. And do you realize you're touching a doorknob? Or, just brushing your teeth. That is your moment to practice. Daily. So, I also just want to, I had this vision as you two were talking of getting together a Sangha, and what we do when we get together in Sangha, and like, let's say we say, we're going to have like a meditation practice today, and we scroll together. And the Sangha, what we do is like, we decide we're going to either like choose Facebook as a platform or Instagram as a platform, and we're going to see if we can mindfully scroll together or mindfully engage somehow. I like to try that at some point.
Yes. That's a great idea. It reminds me of like, you know, there's this like raisin exercise that you do in like retreats, kind of, or like some will do it as an example of what mindfulness is. Like you put a single raisin on your tongue and like explore, like the different textures of it and the flavors, and like it evolves, and then suddenly you're allowed to, at some point, which is always far too long, you're allowed to bite the raisin and like just observe the quality of your mind interacting with this external object. It'd be really interesting to pilot a kind of exercise like that. Yeah.
I don't know the raisin exercise. I think we should try it. And I just want to quickly welcome Topsy, who just joined us. Vidya, did you unmute?
Yes. I was just reflecting on your question, on your statement about building a sangha, and we could. There's a couple of thoughts. We could do mindfulness sessions together. We could also mindfully scroll together. I mean, if it's possible, like now. Okay, just say now, this moment now. How many of us are listening to Clubhouse and not touching your phone, or not on other application at the same time, and to challenge ourselves, to do that. So that's an interesting idea. I would like to, kind of experiment this and do this. Let's have a couple of sessions and say, let's do a maybe, mindful scrolling session or something. I think it's interesting idea. Let's try it out. All right. Another point I wanted to say is that just to add on to what Dexter is saying about the platforms, I'm quite old-fashioned in some ways. I said when I like to have conversations, I would like to have a conversation at this cafe today. Next day, I would like to go somewhere else, or maybe at certain points you're in my house drinking tea, and different places. So we are not into getting a lot of followers. We are not at that point, and I don't think we want to be conscious about it at this point in time, but rather build sangha, with the groups that we have, with the people that are connected here, So we could do Clubhouse, this month, next month, and then future we could do, Facebook Live, private room, and next month we could do Twitter Spaces, for example. Then we will slowly, engage more and more people and let things happen naturally, the way that we would do in our own non-digital life, Right. So yeah, just a thought on that one. Okay. Yeah.
Do we have any other friends that haven't spoken yet? Anybody else want to jump in? Raj, Joe, Topsy? Okay. If not, I will just add, yes, let's design the Sangha. And also, I have to head out at 9, so I'm going to head out soon, and really enjoyed connecting with you all today.
I echo this. I think that the digital sangha, the techno dharma, will continue to flourish through digital bodhisattva. I have I had like a couple ideas about how to actually do a mindfulness exercise with scrolling. I'll just like rifle off two of them. One was you could track over the course of 1 minute how many, you could try to count how many thoughts you had. Like an actual number, like I had 60 different thoughts over the course of this minute, or track how many distinct emotions you felt upon just scrolling through your newsfeed for 30 seconds or 60 seconds, because I think that I would probably be shocked by how many it is that occur in that short span of time. But I see that Topsy's jumped on up, so maybe she's got something to add.
Yes, I'm actually laughing when Vidya was asking like who is not really like looking at other apps and things. I'm actually having two devices on now, and well, yeah, my mind gathers, and then I hear, but it's not everything that is in, and I find that it's like the social media, the digital thing. It's we have been trained to actually pay only small attention at each time, and then new things coming up to get our attention, which is quite difficult to actually focus compared to like if you have a person sit in front of you and that your full attention would be to that person. Yeah, I can't figure it out yet, like how different, but I think like the energy level, like through the social media and compared to like the like face to face meeting or encounter, it's just tremendously totally different. Yeah, just yeah, some thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Tausi, and welcome. Thank Doreen for sharing. Yeah, I know you need to go, so yeah, thanks again. Anytime you need to leave. I was just again thinking about all the new ideas. I like what Dexter said about tracking your movement. If there's a way that during the mindfulness sessions we could effectively count the number of how it's like how often your mind strays. It's almost like meditation. In fact, it is. Coming back and say, "Oh yeah, I lost count. I need to come back." This is a thought arising in me. I think this is how we probably interpret practice in the mindfulness practice in a social media environment, and maybe we need to work on that and allow us the opportunity and space to do that tracking. Right now we don't track. We are just letting ourselves go. And I also want to share some experiences that there are times in the day, certain days that I would be a little bit agitated, and I too much information is coming in. I got to refer to work, and suddenly postings are coming in. Some are related, some are not, and I need to there's a point that kind of like a kind of switch that tells me, oops, it's time I need to switch off. It's okay to miss out on additional information. It is okay. Switch off, calm yourself, then come back to focus on the work at hand, on the things that we need to do. So yeah, that's it. We need to do that. Let's take the idea on and see how we can do this. Yeah, Dexter,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's why like this whole like being immersed in a digital space is fruitful. Like it's fertile ground for practice, and it means that you can really like dial yourself in if you have like kind of right effort, which is a paramita if I'm not mistaken. Um, my own study of like the actual Buddhist practice is, I think it's interesting how these things, how it's universally applicable. Like this system of thought, like a real like kind of rigorous science of the mind, was developed 2.5 centuries ago, millennia ago, not centuries. Um, but still, it's like it completely applies that just did not exist whatsoever. And I think that's because this digital age is an extension of mind. And like the human mind created these systems, and the human mind is the thing that has done a lot of the engineering that knows how to tweak the systems to keep attention wrapped and discursive. I mean, the most I think the most well-paid psychologists in the world are being paid by Silicon Valley tech companies to optimize algorithms. So it's almost no surprise that this new terrain is one, a great challenge to kind of practice, but also there's great reward, I think. And if you're able to slowly, with patience and much self-compassion, to
That's very interesting. When you mentioned Silicon Valley, something just came to me. If you have downloaded the latest version of the iOS, again, I'm not promoting Apple here, right? The latest version of iOS has a function called focus, right? What you can do is you can set a different level of focus, personal focus, work focus, or whatever you want to set. For example, if you put personal focus, I want to have a personal time, you can stop notifications of whatever apps you don't want disturb you during that time, right? And if you are work focus, you only get notifications regarding work from this particular app and nothing else, including blocking off people calling you on your phones or any other applications, right? So it's interesting because it seems that Silicon Valley companies are now helping you to focus, to be mindful, right? And is that a good thing? I don't know, right? Maybe it's a good thing at the beginning, but from a Buddhist perspective, it has to come from within, right? And not some external app telling you to now it's time to be focused, right? Okay. So I'm just sharing this with you, right? Because Apple is jumping ahead in time, right? Because they don't have social media and all that. They don't want you to stick to they have no application to stick to, but they have their devices they want you to hold on all the time. So it's also a very interesting way of stickiness to their devices and to their operating system, right? So we need to be aware of this as well. Okay, so find this focus from inside, not Apple telling you, hey, it's time to focus, this is what you do, right? Okay, so I just thought sharing this with you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the funny thing that came up for me when you're talking about tracking, like how we don't really track our engagement, is like we don't track, but we are being tracked everywhere, every time we use these devices, and almost especially when we use them without our like real intentional awareness, and that's really what drives the economic like system.
Yeah, that's very true. By the fact that even Apple tracks how you want to be focused, and I can't imagine what they can do with this data they have of you, and the psychological profile of you in Apple's algorithm. I can't imagine. I kind of fear that too, right? Okay, how much they know about you, and you don't know about yourself. So I think mindfulness is also about knowing ourselves. We should be able to know ourselves before our devices or Silicon Valley companies know you better, right? So that's really the challenge for us, right? In mindfulness in the social or in the digital media today. So interesting discussion so far. I still like the idea of how to come back to setting up this, moving forward on this digital media practice of a Sangha. Let's sleep on it. Let's pull one or two ideas and see how we can develop this moving forward. Yeah. So oops, Dexter just dropped out. Yeah. So anyone else have anything you want to add? Yeah, Topsy.
Yeah, actually, that's it. Like, it's a good initiative, and I mean, working on the smaller Sangha and then see how it goes, and then expanding it, I think it would benefit a lot. Yeah. Individual level and bigger level.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we can help provide some platform for us to decouple ourselves from the applications that run us, so that we can run our own lives, is something that we need greatly, right? To build better harmonious society. Sometimes there's too much negative information going out there, people reacting, and social media is already segmenting us a lot. We need to find ways to how to bring us back to connecting to ourselves and connecting to other people around us, digitally or real life, right? So it's been an interesting discussion so far. I think there's a lot to chew on. So let's have a couple more minutes of discussions, and then we can adjourn our session and come back again later. Adjourn ourselves to more. Is Dexter back? Yeah, okay. Adjourn ourselves to go back to connecting with people and connecting with ourselves. Right. Yes, Dexter is back. Yes, I was just saying that we probably have a few more minutes to see if anyone else have further thoughts or discussions. Otherwise, we need to go back to connecting with ourselves, with our families, and with other humans, life humans.
Yeah, also, I don't know what happened there. I popped in and out. But yeah, I was just saying that I think that we need to also consider the ways that spirituality is actually portrayed in the digital space, because I think that can have damaging impacts on our own understanding of what this process is like. It's easy to get sucked into the kind of the circus of it, and I want to bring more awareness to that element and how that kind of pitfall of the spiritual journey is very much present in the digital space. So yeah, I think that's probably definitely a conversation for another time, and an evolving one.
Well, great. I think it's been a good conversations. Maybe it's time for us to take a little break and reconnect again another time, unless anyone has some closing remarks for this session.
Just wanted to say thank you guys for a very stimulating discussion, and yeah, it's been very interesting, and look forward to the group Sanghas.
Yeah, thank you. Dexter, Topsy, any closing remarks from you?
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks. It was definitely a very enjoyable conversation. A great way to spend my evening thinking, and yes, I'm also happy to shift into a lower gear now and integrate some of the things that have been said, because there was a lot of really juicy stuff. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, okay, me too. Actually, I want to actually train myself how to be more focused online, because this day, I enroll the online course, but I have never finished it. So it just got distracted. Not paying real attention on online stuff, but it would be good to actually train myself to have more awareness of what I'm doing online and don't get too distracted and focus and finish something online, which is quite interesting. That's a trend. So looking forward to the Sangha, and then, that's
great.
it.
Thank you. Thanks, Dexter, for coordinating and organizing this session. Thanks, Lynn, Topsy, for coming up and sharing your thoughts with us. And thanks, Raj and Joseph, for just being here. Thank you very much. So we'll see you again. We'll wrap up this session for now. So may you all be well and happy.